help long before me.
When I went to my son's house, I found my 10-year-old grandson, who should have run away, chained up. As I was about to help him, he said that my daughter-in-law, who should have been deceased, was there. But your mom passed away. When I opened the floor as my grandson instructed, there was my dried-up daughter-in-law lying there. What on earth happened? I was in a panic due to the unimaginable situation. Afterward, a series of horrifying truths were revealed. A year ago, after my husband passed away, I had been living alone. However, my son's family lived just a 30-minute walk away, so I didn't feel lonely. Especially my 10-year-old grandson Ron, who often rode his bike to visit me.
Grandma. Look. I got a perfect score on my math test.
I was always charmed by my kind and smart grandson who visited me out of concern. My son Simon, at 34, was a company employee. He had earned a qualification in economics at university and was using it at work. He seemed busy, so we didn't see each other often, but I thought it was proof of his hard work. Instead, my daughter-in-law Lily often visited me. Hello, how are you doing? I was always grateful for her concern.
Mom, you should go on an overseas cruise.
Half a year ago, my son suddenly came over and gave me a 2-week trip as a gift. He said he wanted to cheer me up after losing my husband. Oh my! What a thoughtful gesture. Thank you. I joyfully went on the cruise with my hobby friends, planning to help my son and his wife when I returned. However,
Lily passed away a week ago, and we already had the funeral.
When I visited my son right after returning to deliver souvenirs, I was shocked to hear the news at the doorstep. It was so sudden that they had the funeral with just the two of them. No way. As I tried to peek inside the house, my son quickly blocked my view.
I didn't tell you because I wanted you to enjoy your trip.
Indeed, I was on the sea at that time. Did you inform her parents? What about Ron? I bombarded him with questions, and my son frowned.
I've contacted her parents, and Ron is in shock, so please leave him alone.
I couldn't believe Lily was gone. Can I come in? I asked, but my son glared at me.
Stop thinking only about yourself. You're really persistent.
He yelled and shoved me into the empty street, causing me to fall. This boy is also grieving the loss of his beloved family. I accepted what he said, feeling deeply ashamed of my selfishness. Looking up at my glaring son, I apologized and decided to leave. Now, I regret not forcing my way in then, for something terrible was already happening. The next day, I decided to call my son first to ask if he needed help instead of showing up unannounced. But he didn't answer, possibly busy with work. I wanted to visit Lily's grave and check on my grandson. Yet, I didn't want to burden my son with my demands. After several unanswered calls, I left a message asking if I could visit. The next day, still no call back, so I decided to call once more. After a few rings, my son answered with an irritated tone.
Why are you calling so much? I've got a lot going on here.
Why? Because I'm worried about you and my grandson.
By the way, Ron ran away. He left a note saying I'm following Mom.
I was horrified by the note my grandson left. Oh no. Did you call the police?
Of course. I called them immediately.
I was terribly worried about Ron. he must be lonely after losing his mother. Oh, please come back. My hand holding the phone grew cold and numb. I'll look for him too.
He'll come back eventually, so you don't need to do anything.
My son shouted as I was about to hang up. Maybe he was trying to keep me from worrying, but I couldn't ignore a missing 10-year-old. But what did the police say?
Huh? Oh, the police? They're doing interviews and searches.
My son's vague response made me suspicious.
Anyway, don't worry, he'll be back soon.
Then he angrily hung up. Is he really looking for Ron? A small doubt began to grow in my heart. That night, I couldn't sleep at all, constantly worrying about my grandson. As the sky began to lighten, I made a decision. Better to walk around searching for Ron than doing nothing. More searchers would be better. I headed to the police station as soon as the inquiry desk opened at 8:30. My grandson ran away, and you're searching for him, right? Any leads? The officer listened and checked the status. To my shock, they said no search request had been filed. What? That can't be. I was stunned, remembering my son's evasive answers. He's hiding something. Thanking the officer, I immediately went to my son's house. I rang the doorbell, but there was no response, as he was likely already at work. Using my spare key, I let myself in. From the back, I heard noises. Did he leave the TV on? Curiously, I headed towards the sound, finding my grandson chained in the kitchen storage space. Ron! What happened to you? I rushed to him and hugged him.
Grandma. Please. Help Mom first.
He pointed to the floor storage nearby with his chin. But your mom is gone, right? The funeral was held.
No. Mom is here. Please hurry.
He was in a panic, crying and kicking to get closer. His frantic expression made me realize something was seriously wrong. I fearfully opened the floor storage. No. Lily. There lay my daughter-in-law, mouth gagged, hands and feet bound with tape, dried up and lifeless.
It's all Dad's fault. Wah. Mom.
Seeing his changed mother, my grandson screamed and cried. I hugged him and immediately called an ambulance. The operator arranged for the police and rescue team to cut the chains, and both Ron and Lily were rushed to the hospital. In the ambulance, my sobbing grandson explained what had happened. What a horrible thing. I'll make sure he pays for this, Ron. Grandma will see to it. Listening to him, I vowed to bring justice for my grandson and daughter-in-law. Later, with the police, I heard more details in the hospital room. My son had been away for about a week. After Ron fell asleep, I asked the nurse to look after him and went straight to a lawyer's office. Determined to expose my son's crimes, I searched everywhere. 8 days after finding Lily and Ron, I was sitting in my son's living room. As I heard the front door open, it signaled my son's return home.
Mom?
Dressed in flashy shirts and jeans that didn't look like work attire, he was surprised to see me. Then, my son quickly glanced toward the kitchen. Of course, you'd be concerned about the kitchen, where you chained a 10-year-old child. When I glared at him, Simon looked startled.
Chained? What are you talking about? You mean the toy handcuffs he was playing with?
His flustered and lame excuse made me feel nauseous. Enough with the lies. You left a 10-year-old alone for over a week. You said Ron ran away from home, didn't you? When I accused him sternly, Simon's eyes darted around, occasionally glancing toward the kitchen.
He did run away, but the police found him.
Liar. You didn't even file a missing person report. I confirmed it myself. I stood up from the chair with a bang and yelled, making my son wince and fall silent.
But Lily's gone, and I have to work for the sake of the kid left behind.
He mumbled, sneaking glances to check if the floor hatch was open. That's completely different from what Ron told me. Just as I started speaking, my son shouted.
Enough already, you old hag. Haven't you finished menopause?
He raised his voice, interrupting me, and tried to drag me out of the house. I found your dried-up wife under the floor you keep glancing at. I know everything. I pushed his hand away with all my strength, my hair disheveled as I screamed. Simon paled at my words. In fact, I had heard the full story from my grandson on the day I found Ron and Lily. Ron had been on a 5-day camp until the day before I returned. When he came back, full of memories, Simon told him, "Mom has passed away." No matter what Ron asked, Simon didn't answer and blocked the kitchen with a partition, preventing access. My grandson cried, "I want to see Mom. I want to see Grandma," but Simon only yelled, "Shut up." When I visited Simon's house right after returning, Ron heard the doorbell and was thrilled.
Grandma's here.
He tried to run to the door, but Simon gagged him and held him down. You told him, you weren't here when your mom died, so the police suspect you. If you don't want to get caught, stay hidden.
I don't remember that.
Ron must have been terrified. Shocked by his father's words, my grandson hid in his room, holding his breath. Unaware of this, I believed Simon and went home after being shoved into the street. That night, Ron heard rustling sounds from the kitchen. Curious, he sneaked in through a gap in the partition and found his bound and gagged mother in the floor storage. He shouted, "Mom," in shock, which got Simon's attention. Simon chained Ron and shoved him into the storage space. Ron heard Simon muttering, "I thought she'd be dead after 3 days." This revealed that Lily had been without food or water for 5 days, mummifying in the floor storage.
That's just a made-up story by him.
Simon claimed Ron was lying because he was in his rebellious phase. Then why was she mummified?
Actually, Lily had a high fever and died suddenly. I loved her and couldn't let go, so I kept her at home.
He lowered his head, wiping fake tears. I approached him quietly.
"Mom."
My son reached out for comfort, but I grabbed a stack of papers from his nearby bag and hit him hard on the head. Don't be ridiculous. You neglected your child for over a week and went on an affair trip. That's your idea of love? The stack of papers was evidence of my son's infidelity. His computer was full of emails and photos with his mistress, and gifts and luxurious dinners were all documented in the photos.
Where did you get those?
Frantically trying to hide the papers, he looked pathetic. I found this account book in your closet. I slammed a bank book on the table, making Simon's face twitch. The bank book showed transfers totaling $200,000 over 3 months, way too much for a salary. You said you were in accounting, But this is embezzlement.
Ha! This is a bonus. It's too early for you to go senile.
He spat back, but then,
That's not true.
a strong voice came from the next room. Simon looked in shock as a tall, middle-aged man stepped out.
Ollie?
Yes, he was Ollie, the head of accounting at Simon's company. After finding Lily and consulting with the police, I also discussed the suspicious transfers with the manager. The company was aware of the unusual transactions and was already investigating. Ollie had called to check on us, and I informed him about Simon's return. Instead of calling the police, I called Ollie, who offered to accompany me for safety.
You've let me down.
Standing with folded arms and glaring at Simon, he continued.
Everyone makes mistakes, but a crime is inexcusable even once.
What? Simon told me he was an exceptional employee. I asked, confused by the contradiction.
No, he makes many mistakes and tries to blame female colleagues.
I was stunned and looked at Simon, who avoided eye contact.
Still, I believed he had potential. Embezzlement is unforgivable.
Spending stolen money on your mistress. What a disgrace. Shrinking under our combined scolding, Simon suddenly raised his head and started speaking boldly.
Embezzlement and infidelity were wrong, but I couldn't accept Lily's sudden death. I wanted her close, so I put her under the floor.
Claiming she wasn't alive when confined, he began sobbing theatrically. Stop lying. Lily is alive. When I revealed that Lily survived, my son's eyes widened in horror. His fake tears were obvious. That day, thanks to the doctors, Lily was saved and, though bedridden, gave statements to the police matching Ron's. She discovered Simon's bankbook and was attacked when she tried to contact the company. Remembering her trembling during her statement made my anger flare up again.
Our company values customer trust above all. We cannot tolerate this. You're fired.
The manager's low, powerful voice made Simon tear up. What you did is unforgivable. You're cut off. You won't see your wife or child again. My declaration visibly shook Simon.
What? Fired and cut off? How am I supposed to live? Help me, Mom.
Go cry in the bathroom again. I pushed away my son, who was clinging to me, crying. Just then, I heard police sirens, signaling the arrival of officers called before Ollie's appearance.
Am I really getting arrested? I just wanted to impress a younger woman.
Simon cried out, but I handed him over to the police, shooing him away. After that, my son was arrested. The lawyer predicts that, due to embezzling company funds, he might spend about 10 years in prison. Lily divorced him immediately and demanded $200,000 in alimony and child support. I hope he spends his life in poverty and loneliness, darker than the space under the floorboards. On the other hand, Lily has fully recovered, and Ron is doing well too. Feeling responsible for my son's actions, I offered to support their living expenses, but Lily firmly refused, saying she would work. Instead, she asked me to help take care of Ron, which feels like a reward, to be able to spend time with my adorable grandson at such an easy-to-handle age. Lily started working as an insurance agent and amazingly became the top salesperson nationwide. I will continue to watch over both of them with all my heart. How did you find this story? Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.
If you weren't the CEO's daughter, I wouldn't date you. You're such a plain girl.
He said that and splashed beer on my head. Whether it was the alcohol or not, he couldn't stop his abusive words. I couldn't believe the situation and remained silent even when insulted.
I apologize for the wait.
At the voice from behind, my boyfriend's expression changed. Without looking back, I got into the car as prompted. My name is Stella. As the daughter of the CEO of a company, I've been treated with care since childhood. And I was tired of adults changing their behavior when they saw my father behind me. Originally quiet and preferring to be alone, I started blending into the surroundings as I grew up, suppressing myself to avoid standing out. Even the friends I made through effort distanced themselves once they learned about my father's job. I used to dislike my father's profession, but as I entered university and studied business, my perspective changed. Through lectures, I began to understand the difficulty of achieving stable performance over the long term, like my father. I developed an interest in my father's company. Listening to his passion and thoughts about the company, I delved deeper into learning.
Stella has good university grades and seems to have a sense for business, so I'd entrust the company to her eventually.
That's what my father said. I thought, if I ever become the CEO, I'd like to create a company culture where employees can speak freely, regardless of titles or positions. Having felt lonely in my childhood, I admired an atmosphere where open communication was possible. It would be wonderful if I could shape the company that way when I become the CEO. The evening city streets were bustling with various people. I checked the clock. It was 6:50 p.m., and felt relieved. I always wanted to arrive before Lucas for our meetups. I took out a small mirror to adjust my bangs. I also checked the position of my hair accessory. As I tossed the mirror into my handbag, I noticed Lucas, dressed in a suit, slipping through the crowd. I waved to the smiling Lucas and greeted him. We entered our usual bar together. We ordered simple appetizers and wine, toasting to Friday nights spent chatting about work and trivial matters. I loved those casual evenings. Lucas and I started dating during our 4th year of university, and soon it will be 2 years. We got to know each other because we were in the same seminar. Lucas noticed the quiet me, who tended to fade into the background, and approached me. He's great at conversation and subtly lifts the mood around him. I feel lucky to be with him. Lucas said.
The head office's planning department is tough, and there's a lot of overtime. But the satisfaction makes it worth continuing.
After downing his wine, he seems quite tipsy. Being assigned to the planning department means they have high expectations for you. Lucas, you're amazing. Lucas asked.
How long will you stay in the factory job, Stella? If you get transferred to the head office, we can have lunch together.
After graduating from college, I requested my father, who is the company's CEO, to let me work in the factory. I had a strong desire to understand the field. I'd love to have lunch with Lucas, but I enjoy the factory work, and it suits me. Lucas replied.
Really? Wouldn't it suit Stella better to work at the head office dressed nicely instead of in overalls?
He peers at me, gauging my reaction. Not at all. Overalls are comfortable. Lucas, can we order more dishes? I'm quite hungry. Something feels off. Lately, Lucas seems like he wants to say something. Perhaps he found out I'm the CEO's daughter. Suddenly, a memory resurfaces. The friends who distanced themselves when they learned I was the boss's daughter. I can't reveal that to Lucas. He must never find out. Rocked by the sparsely populated train, I gazed out the window. Enjoying the view through the glass was my daily commute ritual. It's a sunny Monday. As the train progresses, the landscape changes from gray buildings to a lush green scene of interconnected trees. Crossing a large river, we're almost at the nearest station. The water's surface reflects a vivid blue, sparkling in the sunlight. I glance sideways as an elderly man and a puppy crossing the bridge shrink from view.
Stella, good morning. You're early.
Joseph says as I exit the ticket gate. Joseph, 2 years my senior, was the friendly colleague who spoke to me on my first day. We chat while heading to the factory. After preparing and reaching my workstation, the signal for the start of the workday sounds. Everything should proceed as usual. However, an unexpected incident occurred. It was just before the afternoon work began, right after lunch. At that moment, my father, the company's CEO, happened to be inspecting the premises. Exiting the break room, I bumped into my father, who asked me to relay a message to my mother. Apparently, he forgot his smartphone at home. He could send it from his computer, but he found it bothersome. Seeing my father off to the workshop, I turned around and, surprise! Joseph was there. He peeked through the half-open conference room door.
Wait, Stella, are you the CEO's daughter?
Panic sets in. I try to come up with an excuse, but nothing comes to mind. Regret floods over me for casually chatting with my father. Joseph will undoubtedly change his attitude toward me now. Word might spread throughout the factory, and everyone might look at me differently. Lost in my thoughts, Joseph speaks up.
Well, Stella, there's something I'd like your help with. There are several processes I'd like to change. Could you relay this to the CEO?
Despite his usual demeanor, I'm intrigued by the content of his request. What kind of processes? I ask. Joseph briefly explains, but the workday is about to start, so we decide to discuss it later. We rush to our respective workstations. Joseph didn't treat me any differently, and his attitude seemed to say, it's no big deal. Feeling the weight lift, I climb the stairs to the workshop. I'm sitting across from Joseph at the hamburger shop in front of the station. Our conversation from earlier in the day unexpectedly became quite lively. To put it simply, Joseph's wish is to give decision-making power to the field workers. As it stands, any changes to the established manual require approval from headquarters. This is necessary for even the most minor changes, and after the factory submits a request for approval, someone from headquarters comes to inspect. Then, it takes time to get consent. Often, by the time consent is received, the situation has changed, and the change is no longer needed, but it also takes effort to cancel the application. Joseph, having finished his hamburger and crumpling up the wrapper, says,
So, Stella, ask the president. Maybe that's impossible. But I'm still wondering if there's something we can do about it.
I hesitated because I wasn't sure if it was something I could ask my father to do. Well, it might be difficult to ask the president, but it seems like the system should be changed. Joseph agrees.
Right, you think so too?
Let's take action first. We'll document all past cases and submit them. Then we'll convey our wishes and have headquarters consider them. Joseph wonders.
I wonder if it will work.
I try to persuade the hesitant Joseph. Let's just give it our best shot. Joseph concedes.
Well, just talking about it won't change anything.
From the next day, we involved our supervisor and started gathering information throughout the factory. It was honestly tough to work on it during our daily tasks, but after persisting for several months, the documents were completed. We timed it with a general meeting at headquarters and handed it over to our supervisor, finally taking a breath of relief. As I was drinking juice during a break, a colleague approached me.
I heard the documents are finished. Good job.
They said. Since we had been going around the factory departments collecting information, everyone knew the situation. Finally, it's done. I hope it leads to some change. My colleague reassured me.
It'll definitely be okay. But I'm surprised by Stella's initiative. You really do have the president's blood in you.
How do you know about that? I asked.
Sorry, I pried it out of Joseph. I was curious why Stella got involved. But don't worry, I'm the only one who knows.
Is that so? I thought to myself, feeling mixed emotions but believing my colleague's words.
It would be great if Stella became the president. You're so serious and hardworking, and you really did your best for the factory this time.
Me, as president? That's impossible. I laughed it off, and my colleague laughed along. This person, who was laughing with wrinkles at the corners of their eyes, is a veteran who has been working at the factory for over 20 years. They, like Joseph, continued to treat me with the same unchanged attitude. It was a calm and bright unchangedness. Months passed, and when our supervisor returned from the general meeting at headquarters, they raised their voice and called everyone together. What's going on? The employees gathered, wondering. The supervisor announced, there's been a partial change in the authority at the site. Hearing these words, the employees began to murmur. I instinctively looked for Joseph. He was on the outskirts of the group, noticed my gaze, and gave a small wave in response. Not all of our hopes were realized, but it seemed like nearly half of them had been approved. That day, everyone took turns speaking to me, and I felt very happy. Since then, filled with a sense of accomplishment and even more motivation, I've been living fulfilling days. One day, my father called me to headquarters. Wondering why he would call me out of the blue, I left my afternoon work and headed to headquarters. When I entered the president's office, my father first praised me for my recent achievements. I hadn't spoken to my father about it, but he seemed to have looked into the situation. Apparently, the company's numbers had significantly improved because of this, and after laughing heartily, my father said to me with a serious expression,
Stella, you have the sense and vitality for management. How about you start taking over the president's duties more seriously?
Hearing my father's words, I thought I wanted to try. A workplace where employees' opinions are heard and improved, and where employees who have become easier to work with are lively. If I became president, I could move things on a larger scale. I could create an even more comfortable working environment. Of course, the responsibility would be heavier. My mind was almost made up, but I asked to think it over and went home that day. Alone in my room, I questioned myself. Can I really do this? Can I fulfill the responsibility? I had trouble falling asleep that night. The next morning, despite the lack of sleep, I visited my father at headquarters with a clear mind. About yesterday's conversation, please let me do it. I look forward to working with you. I asked deeply. My father said,
That's great, thank you.
and started discussing the future schedule.
What? Stella, you're becoming the CEO?
Joseph, please don't raise your voice too much. The break room during lunch only had Joseph and me. It seemed like the right moment, so I shared the news about my upcoming promotion to CEO.
Sorry. But seriously, becoming the CEO? Everyone will be surprised.
Exactly. I think I'll be transferred to the head office soon, and I'm struggling with how to explain it to everyone.
Why not just tell them the truth?
Talking about being the CEO's daughter is a bit scary. I mustered the courage to share past experiences, losing close friends, feeling distant from others, and my guarded childhood. Joseph listened empathetically and responded.
Maybe some people won't be able to interact with you the same way. It's hard to predict. But everyone knows about your hard work this time. I think they trust you, Stella. Besides, some people might not change their attitude after all.
I wondered if that was true. Joseph's words offered some comfort, but my heavy memories still weighed on me. Ultimately, I gave an ambiguous response. After work, I checked my phone and found a message from Lucas. They hadn't seen each other in a while. While I had been busy with paperwork for the head office, Lucas had entered a busy period. I needed to consider not only my colleagues at the factory but also Lucas. As the train rocked, I sighed. Could I really express the truth myself? What would happen if I did? The date for my transfer to the head office was confirmed. In a few weeks, I will leave the factory. I was unsure how to tell everyone, impulsively visited the document room. Dusty and filled with various files, I opened a cardboard box near the entrance and pulled out a thick bundle tied with black string. It was my work journal from the beginning. As I reviewed entries from my early days, when I was clueless and received patient guidance, when senior colleagues encouraged me, and when someone consoled me after making a mistake, my heart settled. It wasn't about being accepted or not, it was about expressing gratitude and sincerity. Determined, I left the document room. During Monday's morning assembly, I announced my transfer to my colleagues. Prompted by my supervisor, I stepped forward and greeted. As everyone wondered what I was about to say, Joseph and other colleagues who knew the situation watched from the back. I revealed that I was the CEO's daughter and would be taking over the company, expressing my gratitude. Surprisingly, I smoothly voiced what had troubled me. Though some were clearly shocked, Joseph congratulated me, and supportive voices followed. The atmosphere softened, and I felt relieved. I received heartfelt encouragement. Later, everyone invited me out for drinks. It was a celebration of my promotion to CEO, so we headed to a bar with a large group. The sheer number of attendees overwhelmed me, and I felt like crying. But it also gave me confidence. I was truly accepted. They had reserved a different place than usual for the occasion, and we all boarded the train together. After a 15-minute ride, we arrived at a bar known for its delicious food. We chatted aimlessly, and as the drinks flowed, a light, fluffy sense of joy enveloped us. When I checked the time, nearly 2 hours had passed. I decided to freshen up a bit and headed to the restroom. The bar was bustling at 8 p.m., and every seat was taken. As I looked around, intrigued by the novelty of the new place, I suddenly heard a familiar voice. Instinctively, I turned my attention toward it. The voice seemed to be berating someone. Despite wanting to leave immediately, my body moved toward the table where the voice came from. It felt as if I were detached from myself, experiencing a strange sensation. Lucas's voice reached my ears.
She might have kept it hidden, but everyone in our seminar knew. If she weren't the CEO's daughter, I wouldn't have dated her. Such a plain girl.
At a table with 4 suited individuals, there he was, Lucas. He continued.
She works in the factory, and I can't believe she's really the CEO's daughter. Her drab attire doesn't inspire me to take her to a nice place. If she invited me to her mansion, maybe I'd feel more motivated.
His words hit me like a punch. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. Frozen, I stood there, and Lucas noticed me. Clearly, he'd been drinking heavily. His resentment and animosity toward me were palpable, leaving me immobilized.
Do you even think you're worth anything? Your only value is being the CEO's daughter.
Lucas glared at me. Unsteadily, he approached, holding a glass in his right hand. Without hesitation, he tilted the glass, splashed beer on my head. The liquid drenched my hair and face, dripping onto the floor. His words continued.
We wasted years together. Let's break up. I'm done with you.
I could only nod in response to Lucas's angry outburst. Quietly, I distanced myself from him, informing my colleagues that I'd head home first. Thankfully, they were too engrossed in their drinks to notice. As I stepped out of the bar, the cool night air touched my cheeks. The droplets in my hair cooled, and the chill reached my scalp, making me shiver. Reluctant to take the train in this state, I reluctantly called for a car. When I became CEO, my father provided me with a private car. The driver was someone I'd known since childhood, and the familiarity of the car offered some comfort. I stared at the passing roads, wanting to feel at ease. That's when I saw someone emerge from the bar's entrance.
You're still here? Looking shabby as ever. Honestly, you're a pitiful sight.
Supported by what appeared to be colleagues, Lucas staggered toward me. My heart was in tatters, unable to bear any more of his words. How could he be so cruel?
I apologize for keeping you waiting, President.
A voice comes from behind.
President!
Lucas looks surprised and gazes at me.
Please get in from this side.
Prompted to the rear seat, I stepped forward.
Wait a minute! What I said earlier was just a joke. If you had told me you became the president, we could have continued our relationship. Let's keep going!
I glance over my shoulder at Lucas, who is desperately trying to convey something. No emotions surface within me. If anything, there's a faint sense of discomfort.
The president is tired, so please go away.
Confirming that I've boarded, the driver closes the door. As the car starts moving, my tear ducts collapse. Tears flow one after another, streaming down my cheeks and falling onto my knees. What did I like about him? To think he was that kind of person. After crying for a while, I started feeling calm. Suddenly, I realized it was my fault. Being in a relationship without showing my true self was an unreasonable idea. With that thought, I begin to feel relieved. I wipe away my tears with a handkerchief and gaze out the window. The starry sky has occasional clouds drifting across it. It feels like being underwater. The gentle sway of the waves, as if drifting along, is soothing. I think about my factory colleagues. And then about Joseph. Being accepted for who I truly am is incredibly reassuring. Rubbing my swollen eyes from crying too much, I fall asleep just like that. A year and a half has passed since becoming the president. Even after transferring to the headquarters, I visit the factory under the guise of inspections whenever nostalgia strikes. Today, I brought some treats as usual.
Despite saying it's tough, Stella manages everything smoothly. It's impressive.
It's not a big deal. I've been receiving support from everyone. As I distribute the snacks, I feel my face soften. Since becoming the president, my factory colleagues still call me Stella. It feels like coming back home. Lost in thought, I suddenly noticed Joseph approaching.
By the way, what about our honeymoon?
His sudden private question surprises me, and I glance around. The colleagues we were chatting with earlier have returned to their workstations. Well, I haven't announced it yet, so be careful. Since transferring, I've become even closer to my factory colleagues, and Joseph and I started dating. We got engaged last month.
Don't worry. I made sure no one was around. Where do you want to go? Maybe overseas?
I'd love to be by the sea. My mouth moves faster than my thoughts. For some reason, I've always wanted to go to the beach with Joseph.
If it's the beach, maybe an island would be nice. I'll look into it.
Joseph smiles. I'm looking forward to it. In the bright light, sitting on the shore and gazing at the sea with Joseph, what colors will it be? Just imagining it makes my heart race, and my cheeks relax.
How did you like this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Well then, let's meet in the next video.